So Katherine, I'm so excited for this conversation. If we could start off with what is the good daughter syndrome? How can we recognize it?
Okay. So, a short sentence would be the good daughter syndrome is a dynamic whereby an attuned, sensitive daughter takes care of her mother, and her mother's needs get met at the sacrifice of her needs.
Wow.
There's a lot that goes into this. So, first, you have an attuned, sensitive, empathetic, empathic daughter, a child who's just wired to be, um, as many children are, to look outward and to bond with mom. And then a difficult mother, I think when we say difficult, most people kind of have, there's a recognition. Oh yeah, my mom's so difficult. But there's a continuum and there's an umbrella. I would say on an extreme end of the continuum are the personality disordered moms. So you're talking narcissistic, borderline, histrionic, addicted, um, and they qualify for maybe a DSM diagnosis. The way that they qualify is that these coping mechanisms that they use are persistent and pervasive. Okay, so rewind. It's a combination of defenses. A lot of moms are just difficult because they might have narcissistic or borderline or histrionic traits. And that covers a lot of us. I can be difficult.
We
Um,
can all be difficult, right?
difficult. At the bottom of all of this are a concept of defenses. Your viewers may or may not be familiar with that. And those are psychological coping mechanisms that just happen. We don't decide to have defenses. Psychologists say that most defenses are pretty well set at age 4. Might be debatable, but they're very strong, right? Also, you have moms who are have experienced trauma in a particular area, but not all. So she may lose her mind over when you wear a short dress, but she's cool when you talk about other things. And so there'll be some hot spots. And those moms are frankly easier to work with. There's more hope. It's more hopeful that they're able to adapt and change.
So what I'm hearing you say, Katherine, and what I'm hearing you say is there's the daughter who, as we're listening, most of us are going to be listening with the ears of as a daughter, even if we are mothers ourselves. And of course, we've talked about this in other parts of the masterclass. If we are also mothers, in addition to daughters, as we do our own healing work, my invitation is to not put a heaping pile of shame on top of anything. We only know what we know now. So, and you've talked about this in your work, and I'm going to ask you about that in a moment, because I just want to start us off by saying that as we start to now talk about these mothers. And so the other thing I'm hearing you say is difficult mothers can range from narcissistic, borderline personality disordered, those with those traits, or those that have adaptations because of their own history. And so what I'm hearing you say, and I've noticed in your writing and in what I read about your work, is there's not a blaming of these mothers. It's of course they have their adaptations, but also we're not going to just, of course, it away to the point that we're not acknowledging it and not healing forward. Am I getting that right?
Yes, yes, and it's a slippery slope. I would say, I think I feel kind of two minds about it, and I grapple with this all the time because hurt people, yeah, hurt people. So nobody is responsible for the trauma that's befallen them or their trauma response. However, there is free will and there is the ability to work on things. I think there's a fine line between enabling and excusing, and good daughters do this all the time, right? If you're programmed to take care of mom, part of that is, well, she couldn't help it. Her childhood was worse. And you can so easily, I love your nodding.
That gave language to what I was wrestling with, that difference between enabling / excusing and just naming and acknowledging with whatever amount of compassion or non-compassion, because I've had certainly years of anger and non-compassion, like this is all part of the healing journey, but they're two
Yeah.
separate things, is what I'm hearing you say. And that I love that language. So thank you for that.
And I think you can feel angry. That's a natural when you're breaking away, when you're in a recognition stage. Oh, wait a minute. Mom makes me feel all these ways. That's a first stage. And it's only a problem, I think, if you stay stuck in anger, because chances are you're probably not making the changes that are going to bring you to a peaceful place. So
Mm.
that's an uncomfortable in between. So I guess this also has a continuum. You can be in denial and tell yourself, and a lot of good daughters, they wrestle, is it my fault or is it mom's fault? So I think there's a false dichotomy in there that it has to be one or the other. But that's all part of the enmeshed good daughter paradigm that's so problematic. Mom can have her history, her trauma, her defenses. You can decide how you're going to respond to those without, and if they fall in a pattern, even a diagnostic pattern. Diagnoses have a history of, the patriarchy medical model. So I almost find it more helpful to think of it as an archetypal pattern,
Mm.
because with patterns, there are there are things that maybe difficult moms do that are alike, even though they're differences, but they're alike. And then there are patterns of responses. And if we can see ourselves in the patterns, then we can also take another pattern, a pattern of either repair or breaking away, and then use that to climb out of the dysfunctional or the hurtful dynamic.
Mm.
So it's so much as both and.